So buying support and selling resistance sounds easy, but you need to forget about the bull and the bear market bias. Why? We're in a bit of a bear market rally. I know, said the word bear already, but you need to follow the trend. Overall, you should be cautious on a move like this because it is pretty much fundamental based due to Ethereum. And if you are a beginner and you are following this hype, you may well find yourself a little bit caught up in the emotions, especially when you look on Twitter and YouTube all turning green very, very quickly. Just follow the trends. It's simple. It's psychological, right? Which is what I teach. Now, let's talk about a few things first. Before we go on, earning reports. Mentioned it in the last video. We've got a lot coming out. It may not be significant this quarter, but the next quarter it definitely will be due to the fact of high inflation. ECB. They're going to be doing their first interest rate hike for the first time in 11 years. I know, 11 years. Finally, they're sorting their stuff out. The euro has crashed, you've probably noticed, right? So it may well be 250 base points. If it is 500, expect a shock in the market, so just be mindful of that. Now let's talk about what is a bear market rally, right? Back in the day, back in the old previous bull market and bear market sort of situation, back in 2018, you can see here rally, little rally, and then melt, obviously. So another one here too. It's quite significant when you look at these, right? Bear with me. So when we look at these previous levels, right, it looks great because the market goes up. Now, every single time you look at these levels, it's like, sweet, Bitcoin just flew. And I remember getting caught out by these massively in the last cycle. We are at that point now where the market is moving up in a downtrend, which may well catch you out. So just bear with me in this video when I explain a few things. It makes it a little bit easier. So when we look at that, you need to take your profits sooner than you think, right? Certainly when you look at the likes of Bitcoin. When we look at Bitcoin right now, this is where we are, right? Overall, right? So we're in a monster bear trend. We've had a little bit of relief here. Not much though. Massive melt. We've had no relief. We're starting to slowly get relief. We are kind of trying to get out of this range. We're not really fully confirmed yet. But the reality is, right, we could see BTC go and retest roughly $27,000, $28,000, $29,000 level, right? If you bought this level, which on my Patreon I was saying to people, it's not a bad time to buy really. In, you know, the likes of Polkadot made a new low. I'll show you. So Polkadot made a new low. I even tweeted about it in terms of the price level that it was on, if you recall. So that's an important thing. There is always going to be opportunities, which is why I started this video saying buy support, sell resistance. Don't be emotional about it, right? The reality is, most people, if you bought this level, you have to take profit here. Whether that's 25%, 50%, whatever it may be. If you're not, you're at huge risk for this to actually go back down on you and catch you out. Because if you buy this late, and if you bought this at like, say, I don't know, 23K, 24K, whatever, you're going to get slammed if the bear market continues. We've got to play the trend. If you're on a lower time frame, you can catch some good moves. If you're on a higher time frame, you want to be careful. You want to be very, very careful. You don't want to get too late. Even on the daily time frame right now, right? When we zoom in on this, we haven't even got an EMA crossover yet, right? In terms of the EMAs, in terms of what I use. That's an important factor. However, on the likes of Ethereum, we're well beyond that point now because of the obvious fundamentals. What is the fundamentals that you're saying, Ash? Well, you got to kind of look at the obvious here. The Ethereum merger. We're expected on the 19th of September that is going to all fully happen. We're going to go from the whole consensus of POW to basically proof of stake. It's going to change the game significantly with Ethereum. Now, what does it mean for price? Probably going to rally up. I would imagine $2,000 is going to probably happen. In terms of this region here, it's probably going to get retested. But if you're looking to enter this, why are you not looking at two levels? Level number one, whether you want the best entry point, is probably here. If it does retrace and correct back down and go and do a retest of this level around $1,200 or $1,250, and then you got the obvious level here of this breakout level here where we could be breaking out. If it breaks above this really high and then comes and tests it, this is your level, right? It's simple. Retests always work best. But the reality is, we've melted from $3,500, give or take, $3,600, all the way down to $887 without any relief. We're finally getting that relief, boys and girls, finally, which means there's opportunity. There's an opportunity to go long, but as I say, right, we are still, in the grand scheme of things, looking at this market, we are in a disgusting downtrend. We could go all the way up here, all the way up here, all the way up here, and still melt and go down and continue going down and going down lower beyond this point. We've got to look at that as a fact. So a bear market rally is hugely important if you are buying at levels of support. I did mention it on my live on Wednesday. Buying here isn't a bad place. I've talked about it pretty obviously in my Patreon, so please make sure you follow that. What you see on YouTube is not what you see on Patreon. Anyways, let's talk about a few other things which is going to help our buyers a bit more. For obvious reasons, let's look at the total market cap. Now, this is kind of my overall thing that I've had for a while. This is the low, obviously. This is the levels of resistance of real interest where it could well be a level where, put it this way, if that level obviously gets hit, cool. But we may well look at this too. I reckon a lot of people will be taking money off the table at these points. Personal thoughts, right? Obviously, we've still got a long way to go. But we've also got this level here too to kind of consider. These are levels of interest for like people to take money out the table. If I am looking at my BTC bags and we go to say 30k, there's a high chance I probably will sell some of my spot. It's just kind of the way it is, right? It's just how I want to play it. But what I would be looking at is to redeploy capital back at these lower levels where this point is, where this point is. Where that green level is probably where I will be looking to go much heavier. I just do not think right now it is the right time to go balls deep in the market. That's my personal thoughts due to everything else. Whether you agree with me or not, I don't care. That's my personal thoughts and I play that game that way. So when we're looking at that, it is still a bit of a downtrend. There's nothing really, in my opinion, enough to get me going, you know what, this is the bottom. It's not, you know, as I said at the start of this video, don't get obsessed with it because you're never going to call it. But in terms of the time frame, it just seems a little bit too quick, in my personal thoughts. Anyways, the last thing I want to talk about realistically is the dominance of this. Kind of obvious, really, that this was going to come back down. Been talking about it for a while. We're going to see this do its little magic trick, which is when this comes down, the market is good. And we're getting that already, right? In my opinion, I don't think it's going to go down too much further. But the reality is it is going down at the moment. Certainly when you look at like the daily time frame, you'll see it in more detail. We've rolled over eventually, but it wouldn't shock me in the slightest if we do go around to this level here, around 11%, give or take, which would be a pretty good level to go to. And then we'll see where it goes from there. But in my opinion, you got to look at money flow. It's hugely important. But the one thing that we need to be mindful of over the next few weeks is obviously the dollar index as well. Why is this important? You're probably wondering, well, if the ECB rate hike is going to be an interesting one, it could create more strength for the dollar for obvious reasons. So don't get excited about this going down just yet. A lot of people have been talking about this for going down since April time where it hasn't. And I've been talking about that quite obviously on my Twitter. So just be careful. Rate hikes are hugely important in terms of the euro and how the euro is going to affect it. The euro is the biggest thing that will affect the dollar. It's a lot of countries and it is one country currency pair, right? Remember, there's 24 different countries on that. So that is pretty much it. Keeping it super simple. I don't want to go too deep, but what I will say is this as a closing thought, right? If you've not considered taking any profit at levels up at these points and you're thinking that this is the bottom and it's a new bull market, you should be. Always remember to take some sort of profit off the table, because as much as this is pumping, don't get caught up in the emotions. There will be people that will buy this really high thinking it's a bottom. They will buy it so high at levels of resistance and it will be the perfect storm for people to just sell. And if you buy low, you always sell high.